I got some feedback this morning and I'm thrilled. If any of you are watching this and you have any thoughts or ideas, please let me know. I want to thank Jennifer. I met with her earlier on today and she was looking at one of my videos and she was like, could you give a bit more info on that? I'm interested in nightclub promoting. I'd love to know exactly how you found your first opportunity. So here it is. I was interviewing somebody earlier this morning, a girl, Jennifer O'Leary. Now she says she watches these videos, so if you're watching this, please leave a comment. I get such a thrill. There's only about 30 or 40 people watching these videos at the moment, so when somebody says to you they're watching, it's like, woohoo! It's a big boost. So anyway, she was saying she's just out of college, she's just finished her master's, and she was like, look, I'm watching your videos, and they're all well and good, but I'd love some tangible take-home advice. And I was like, well, I'm trying, what do you mean? And she goes, well, look, take that midnight video for instance sake. Like, you talked about, you know, how much fun you were having in nightclubs, and then you showed how much fun you were having in nightclubs, but you didn't tell me how to, if I wanted to start promoting nightclubs, how to do it on a kind of a step-by-step guide. So I thanked her very much and I said, okay, cool, well that's the next video that I'll do. So this is that next video. So if you're thinking about promoting a nightclub, are getting into nightclub promoting, the first thing is I would strongly urge, get under the wing of a nightclub promoter that's really nailing it and work for free. You'll have a great lifestyle off the back of it. You'll be skipping the queues, you'll get loads of free drinks, you'll be in VIP areas, you'll have a great laugh. Now the work might be pretty tough and grimy, but it's well worth it. And long story short, if you're looking at it with a mindset that you ultimately want to do this, you'll learn a lot of lessons at their expense. It'll accelerate your learning curve. And when you go to do it, you'll do really, really well as a result. But having done that, if you want to get started, what I did when I started was I mapped out Monday through to Sunday, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, what nights were on. I identified a target market. My target market was students. I figured they could go out any day of the week. They had kind of not huge responsibilities, not a lot pulling out of them, so they had money to spend and they could go out any night of the week. So that was the market I wanted because I could do the most nights with them. So for that market, I mapped out Monday through to Sunday what clubs were open to them and what was the offering. So were they playing deep house, were they playing commercial kind of chart and cheese, were they doing hip hop? And then separately, what kind of drinks offerings? Was it all drinks €2 or some €1 specials, or hell, were they just normal priced drinks? So it was really interesting when I had done that. I could see what nights were on any given night of the week. I could see the kind of the patterns in terms of drinks offerings. One thing that I noticed was all the really ultra cool nights with really interesting DJs did shit. Sorry if you're promoting those nights, but they did, comparative to the nights that weren't as cool, the mainstream commercial nights that even played pop and cheesy music. Those nights were the ones with massive queues out of them and had the most frequency. That was something really, really interesting. So for me, I said, right, I'm not going to go for any of the kind of niche crowds. I'm going to go mainstream, commercial masses. And music-wise, I said, okay, I'm going to go kind of commercial, chart and cheese, the kind of almost wedding-like sets. It's the kind of music that you can't help but dance when you listen to the songs. God, I'm thinking like Backstreet Boys, Backstreet's Back, and that, you know, when you hear it, you can't but dance, and if you are dancing, no one's going to slag you because, hell, you're taking the piss anyway. And so that was a kind of a spot music-wise that I felt, I play this kind of music, people can't but have fun listening to it, and it appeals to the masses, and I'm going to target the masses, so hopefully I can host the most amount of nights and make the most money as a result. Drinks-wise was a really interesting thing. I found that amongst all the clubs, the ones that had kind of complicated drinks offerings were the ones that on their social media pages they had the most negative feedback. People couldn't understand that if you buy this drink with that drink, you get this discount off. It just didn't translate after 10 Jaeger bombs. Whereas the simplest promotions of like €3 all drinks or €2 all drinks or even 150 all drinks, that was simple. It was easy to communicate. It had the highest cut through and it had the least complaints. So I kind of, after mapping everything out and seeing everything, I realized that the route to the most success in terms of student promoting was mainstream commercial mass market, commercial chalk and cheese music, and a simple drinks policy across the board. So no extremes, just this is what we're doing across the board. And that way I could say, go out on this night, it's this music, it appeals to everybody, nobody could have too many issues with it, and this simple drinks offering. So it made communicating the message of what the night was really simple. That only kind of makes sense when you contrast it with, we've got this ultra cool DJ who doesn't quite play deep house, doesn't quite play like alt techno, who plays like a bloody, like, God knows how you describe it, but that's the point in itself, that sometimes people do things that are so cool that they're so hard to actually communicate en masse. Whereas if you simplify things right down, everybody gets it, everybody understands it, and so it's much, much easier to promote your message out. Anyway, so I had my map of all the different days, and I noticed one day was really, really underserved. It was a Tuesday, and the kind of obvious thing is, well, who the hell wants to go out on a Tuesday? You can be guaranteed that birthdays will fall on a Tuesday. People might have late mornings on a Wednesday, and there's going to be some occasions on a Tuesday, but for some reason my opportunity came in that there was nothing on a Tuesday. So I very simply went to a club that was actually open. So for some reason some clubs pride themselves on being open 7 days a week, and so as I said, I walked around and they were open, they weren't targeting anybody, nobody was coming in, but it's like the owner kind of wanted to just have the prestige of being open 7 days a week. So I walked in, the club was empty, they were making no money, so I did a deal with them. Very simply, I said, look, your club is empty, I think I can get about 400 or 500 people. The kind of average capacities for most nights were 800 or 900 people, so 500 was relatively speaking safe, considering we had no competition. I said, look, to get those kind of numbers in, you know, you're only dealing with 50, maybe 100 people at the moment, so I'll bring 500 people in. You're not charging in on the door. I'm going to charge €10 in on the door. I want to keep all the money on the door, but to get that crowd in, I need to do drinks at all drinks, $2.50. Can you do that? He said, no, I can't do $2.50. I can do €3. I was like, no, I need $2.50. So how about from that €10, you take 25% and I keep 75%. He goes, wow, Jesus, okay. That meant if 500 people came in paying 10 quid, he'd make an extra 1,250 quid. It would more than accommodate the hit on drinks. So he was happy with that, and that was my deal done with the nightclub. I didn't have any guarantee, which some people sign themselves up to, which means that if they don't get the 500, they start paying deposits or, you know, kind of penalty fees. It didn't do anything like that. From the very, very start, I had a working partnership with the club, where, you know, they wanted us to succeed. If we did well, they'd make a percentage of the door, and if, everybody won in that scenario. So I had my offering, I had my day, I had my club, and then I needed my crowd. And as I said, a Tuesday night, pretty challenging, but what I did is I just scoped out the environment. I looked at the sports teams and looked at what teams train on a Tuesday night. Well, if everybody's getting together and they're training, more than likely they'll go to a pub afterwards for one drink. So that's an interesting market to hit in. And although I was going to charge them 10 quid ultimately, nothing sells better than a crowd. So perhaps I'll give those people all free in, provided they're in before 12 o'clock, considering no one goes out before 12 o'clock. But I'll give these guys free in before 12 o'clock, and that means if anybody comes in, at least there'll be somebody in the club. I then looked at all my calendars, and on Facebook it's brilliant, you can see all your friends and whose birthdays are there. And so I looked at everybody whose birthday fell on that Tuesday night and said, look, it's your birthday this week. I imagine you're probably not thinking too much of going out on Tuesday night, but I'm throwing a party here. It's all drinks $2.50. It's normally 10 quid in, but I'll give you and 5 of your friends free in. Now, chances are, if somebody's going to make an occasion of their birthday in college, they'll have more than 5 people that want to go. But if I anchored them in with that kind of a deal, they'd commit to going, and they'd probably bring another 10 or 20 people off the back of it. Anyway, I repeated that same process. I did the same thing that I did with sports teams on classes that had late lectures on a Tuesday, because I thought they might go to the student bar and then be inclined to go out. And then I sat in certain parts as the weeks progressed, in, for example, the student bar, and I asked, where are you coming from? What are you doing? And I kept digging into the different groups and doing these deals. These deals that in themselves made no sense, as in, I'll put you guys in for free here. Just this once off, just to look after you. But of course, when they were committed in, they'd tell people, and I think nothing sells better than a personal endorsement. So as soon as I anchored them in, they'd pull other people in for me. And I repeated that process on a once-off basis for loads of people. And some came back to me and said, hey, will you look after me again? And it really depended on the demand. You know, if we weren't doing as well, of course, I'd love to look after you. If we were doing as well, I had to appreciate that they had looked after me in the first part by coming in. And so, yeah, look, I'll look after you, but just get in a bit earlier. And get in a bit earlier. And my free before 12 o'clock turned to free before 11:30. My free before 11:30 turned to free before 11 o'clock. And very soon, after a couple of months, I had myself a full night of people paying 10 quid in on the door and making 75% of it. That's how I started. And I repeated that process out literally to the point where I was doing about 30 of them a week. It was a fantastic experience. And thank you for asking me that. I hope that acts as a kind of a first foot in the door for some of you. If it does, let me know. I'm dying to hear how your success goes. And if you have any questions on any of that kind of space, don't hesitate to reach out. I'd love to see you do really well there.